The Gilded Age was an era of rapid economic growth, especially in the North and West. It lasted from 1865 to 1898. This time period received its name from a title of a book named The Gilded Age by Mark Twain and Charles Dudley Warner. One of the four influential people of the Gilded Age was John D. Rockefeller. Born in New York, Rockefeller established his name after the discovery of oil in Tootsieville, Pennsylvania in 1859. 10 years later, he founded the Standard Oil Company, and in 15 years he controlled 90% of the nation's oil. He acquired this power due to the monopoly he had on oil. Second is Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie was born into poverty in Scotland, 1835. He moved to America with his family at the age of 13. At 18, he took a job at the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. This was his first taste of steel and iron. By the end of the Civil War, he had invested most of his money in steel, which resulted in him making billions. He also came up with the theory of the gospel of wealth. The gospel of wealth promoted social Darwinism and wealth among few privileged people. Third is J.P. Morgan, born and raised in Connecticut. He first started making money by selling defected guns to the Union at high inflated prices. He also bet on the Civil War. After the end of the war, he made his money by monopolizing the railroad industry. The fourth was Cornelius Vanderbilt. He built a railroad connecting Chicago and New York. He popularized the use of steel rails, which made the railroad safer. Other key person was Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone in 1876. This changed the communication between people, allowing for expansion. Fun fact, he disliked deaf people. The presidents of this time, Ulysses S. Grant was elected president in 1868. His Democratic rival was Horatio Seymour. President Grant ran 2 terms from 1868 to 1876. James Garfield was a Republican who served between the years of 1880 to 1881. He was assassinated by Charles Gutierre, died on September 19, 1881, by bullet wound. Charles Gutierre was convicted and hung for his crime. Vice President Chester A. Arthur took office and served for 3 years. Grover Cleveland was elected in 1884 by the Democratic Party. He served 1 term. Benjamin Harrison was elected in 1888 by the Republican Party. He, too, only served 1 term. In 1892, the Populist Party is established. They believed in a larger role of government, progressive income tax, and a more direct method of democracy. Grover Cleveland comes back and serves 1 more term in 1892. William McKinley was elected in 1896 and 1900 by the Republican Party. Some important events to remember are Panic of 1873, where the J. Cook and Company collapsed, causing a financial panic. The railroad strike of 1877 was caused by the railroad workers from Baltimore and Ohio railroad companies walking off the job and starting a wildcat strike that prevented the use of the railroads in the Northeast. Time zones were created to establish a norm between the railroads. Before time zones, there was much confusion on the arriving and departure times. 4 time zones were created: the Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. Knights of Labor was the first union created in America. At the peak of enrollment, they had 700,000 members. The Haymarket affair was started by the Knights of Labor as a strike. A bomb was detonated, killing 6 police and wounding 60 bystanders. The bombing was linked to the Knights of Labor, causing controversy over labor unions. The Knights of Labor lost 50% of their members within the next year. The American Federation of Labor was another labor union founded by Samuel Gompers. To become a member, one had to be highly skilled. Anti-Sherman Act was a bill created to stop big business from having so much control, but it ended up hurting labor unions. The Gilded Age was a very corrupt time period in history that was instrumental in creating and modeling the America that we live in today.